Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to Jamie Photography. The wonderful city of Paris, really is a lovely place. This is Pont Neuf, one of the bridges that cross the River Seine. Evening shot, and lots of people out. Wonderful, wonderful time of year. Nice warm evening. You can go to Paris and you can spend many days there shooting the beautiful historic buildings and scenery. Actually, my workshop for this year for Paris is now sold out, and we're going to have a great time together this year out in Paris. I do have some spaces left on my London workshop in May, so feel free to have a look at my website. You'll find there's a workshop page on my website. It's jrmathlin.uk, and you can see that we've got two workshops that still have some spaces. Paris is sold out, but we have some spaces left on the London workshop. There's a number of people already committed, and I'm looking forward to meeting you in this May. And I also have in September an English medieval cities. It's a 10-night tour, and we're going to cover Winchester, Salisbury, Bath, Bristol, and of course we're going to go to Stonehenge for a sunrise at Stonehenge. Fabulous trip. It's a fully all-inclusive trip. If you click on more information, you'll find the details of the trip, and we can go from there. I also still have my sky packs available. Currently, just still my night pack with some very, very high resolution night skies taken from all over the world, Africa, the US, and the UK. And I'm really close to being able to release my sunset pack. So I know people have been very patient, and thank you for that. Hopefully they'll be with you soon. Some other good news is I'm now working with Luminar. I'm an affiliate member for them, and I will be promoting their software. However, I still will only use them as a plugin to Lightroom and Photoshop, and we will do limited use on the software. There's some really good elements of Luminar that I do like to use, and I will show you those as we go forward. But right now they do have some really good discounts up and running, 60% off if you have a look on their website, which is under skylum.com. I'll put the link in down below. Feel free to have a look, and also you'll find there is a further discount code, Jamie 10, and you'll also see that down below. If you apply that, if you do choose to purchase any of their products, you get that on top of the discount plans that they've got in place at the moment. So really a good time to get into Luminar if you want to. Of course, I am a big fan of Adobe Lightroom and Photoshop, but I do enjoy using Luminar products. So have a look at the website, look at all the different options they have available to you, and see what you think. But as I say, I will be using Luminar a little bit more. I've had a few people in the comments say, could we use a little bit more Luminar? So I will be doing that. So back to the shot we've got in Paris. Fabulous place, as I said. But let's look at the before. This is the image I actually shot, taken on a tripod, 3.2 seconds, and ISO 200. And I've tried to make sure that I didn't burn out the highlights. So it's trying to find the balance between not going too far with the lanterns, and then we will turn that into in this video. So I hope you enjoy it, and the raw image for this is available for you to download and follow along. All I ask is that you respect my copyright, but you're welcome to download the image, and if you do choose to share it somewhere else on social media, then all I ask is you give credit to myself at Jamie R. Mathlin. So there's a link down below to do that. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it would be great to have you join me here on YouTube. And also I love your comments and questions, and any tips that you might have for me. Feel free to put those down below. And if you do enjoy the video, then it would be great to have a like. So there we go. Okay, let's get started. So my normal workflow is to start off with any noise correction that we may need. And I tend to use the new denoise function in Lightroom. It's very, very effective, extremely effective actually. It can give us up to 5 stops of correction, which is always very, very helpful. But I do know that some people do have slightly older machines and will struggle a little bit with the denoise function. It could take a little bit longer in some cases a long time to do the work. So what you can do, and I'll quickly show you, is you can still use the luminance functions here to decrease noise, and you can use the masking function, and I'll quickly show you that before I do the denoise, just to give you an indication. So if I zoom in to have a look at where we might have some noise, and let me just open up the exposure here so we can just find an area where we got quite a bit of noise. So let's not go too bright. Let's zoom into this area over here. So you can see the noise on the building here. It's quite obvious. I'll go in even closer. So we're going to be very, very close here, but effectively what we're able to see is the pixel level that we've got here. You can see the pixels. And I'll come back slightly from there, but you can see the noise. So what we can do using the detail module, we can go to luminance and we can raise the luminance slider until the noise disappears. So you have to be careful you don't go too far, but if I bring that up there, I would say, I mean, we get rid of completely the noise pretty well by 60 on this slider here. But what it does do is it creates a very soft look to the image because we've now effectively just blurred away the noise. So what we need to do is add sharpening back in to sharpen the edges. So we can go, I'm going to go up to about sort of probably around about 70 on the sharpening. And as you can see, it brings back some of the noise. But the key here really relates to the masking. And if you hold down the Option or Alt key, you can then move the slider, and you can move the slider until you see the areas you want the noise correction to work on, in this case the black areas. You can move it until you see no noise in the black area. So look at the sky over in the top left there, and as I move it up, you'll see we'll get to a point where the noise has gone. So it's around about 30 on that masking scale there. So if I go too far, we will end up only sharpening very, very small areas, and it won't look natural. So I'm going to go at 30. Okay, so we've now got a balance between the noise and the sharpening. All right, so what I can see is I do need to back off the luminance ever so slightly, and I also need to back off the sharpening ever so slightly because we're getting some artifacts around these areas. So I'm going to bring that sharpening back to around about 40. And I do know my good friend Serge Raminelli, he has actually got quite a good model for whatever your luminance slider is, and your sharpening slider should add up to 100, right? So if you go up to 60, as I've done here in luminance, then you set your sharpening at 40. Vice versa, if I go for 50 down here on luminance, then I will set 50 as my sharpening up here. So they always add up to 100, and it works generally. In most cases it works very, very well, so it's a good rule of thumb, but you've got to find that balance point. Now if I zoom back out to where we were, of course we were really close in there, we really couldn't see it. So we've got quite a big improvement now on the noise, for sure we have, and this is the way we used to do it before denoise came in. So as I say, you're looking at the buildings there, and just looking at the zoom in, we're at 300% there, and it looks pretty good. But let me reset that, and let me now do the denoise function. So I'm going to click on denoise. Now the noise in this image is not that great. I shot it 200 ISO. It's a 3.2 second image taken on a tripod. I'm going to go with 50% because the noise is not too bad. I'm going to click enhance, and it will process this denoise now to show us the algorithm. What the algorithm will do and how the effect will be applied, and it is very, very good. As I say, I think it's worth around about 5 stops. So let's see, it's done that now, and I'm just going to go back to the exposure level, and I'm going to bring that exposure level up to the same level, and there we go. You can see it's pretty clean, and again we're zoomed in at 300%. So I'm very happy with that. And the great thing is you don't have to worry about how far you go with your luminance slider or your sharpening slider. And of course there are other sliders in here as well that we would normally consider if we were really focusing on the noise removal, using the radius and detail, and also looking at color noise as well. We don't need to do that. Denoise function does that for us. Now if you are struggling with denoise and it is taking rather a long time, people generally think, well, they need a faster processor or they need more RAM, and more RAM is always a good thing. More RAM is always a good thing in a computer. It does always help, but actually, denoise really does rely quite heavily on the performance of your graphics card and the amount of memory that's available on the graphics card. So, for example, if you had a 1000 series NVIDIA graphics card that had 2 or maybe 4 gigabytes of video RAM on it, and you change that for a 2000 or a 3000 series card, maybe a 3050 or a 3060 card with 10, 12 or 16 gigabytes of RAM on it, and I know they can get quite expensive, but just as an example, what you will see is incredible improvements in the time it takes to do these AI-based calculations. And of course, if you generally go for a newer machine anyway, they will have the capability to do that. And the new Apple processors, the M chips that most of the MacBooks come with now, all of the MacBooks actually come with now, have all of these instructions built into it. And you saw here on my machine, this is a Mac Studio. It was able to do that denoise calculation in approximately 10 seconds. It's very, very quick. So yeah, just a little chat there about noise. So let's process this image. I'm just going to reset that back. We're in the, just set the settings back. We're in the enhanced noise reducted DNG. So we've made that transfer. So next thing I normally do on my workflow is I consider the perspective, and it is leaning slightly away from us on the left and slightly away from us on the right. So you could go down to transform and you could click auto, and I can click that, and it does a sort of okay job. It's not as good as it perhaps used to be because we never used to have guided. But if we go to guided, click on guided there, what you're able to do now is draw a line where you think something should be straight. So if I want this crease here between the two pieces of brickwork to be vertical, I'll draw a line down there. I'll say I want that to be vertical. And then maybe I'll go over to this building over here and I'll pick up on the lights that we've got in there. So looking in the zoomed area, I'm going to the right of the top light, and then I'll go down to the bottom right of the, there we go, the bottom light there. And I'll say I want that to be straight. And once you get a minimum of 2 lines in, it will do a correction. I can also, if I wanted to make sure that this point here and this point here were level, I could draw a line between those 2 points like so, let go, and it will actually straighten those 2 points up as well while keeping the 2 verticals in. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily look completely natural. So you can just click on it and press delete and go back to where you were. So I prefer in this case the verticals to be correct, but I like the perspective of the bridge sort of falling away from us as it goes away. So that I'm happy with the perspective there. Next thing I'm going to do is we're going to go up to the basic tools, and we're going to open up the shadows. So I'm going to go 100% plus on the shadows, and I'm going to go to the highlights, and I'm going to go 100% minus on the highlights. Now, if you do that, what it can do is create a little bit of an HDR look about it, which we can deal with. But a good way to initially correct for that is to reduce your clarity slightly. So if I back the clarity off to say -15 on the clarity, it actually softens the image slightly and takes away that HDR look. Now, if you look at the light fittings, they don't look natural now because we've brought the shadows really down. If you didn't want to have to deal with the light fittings yourself later, you could always come up slightly on the highlights to around about there. Look, and they look quite natural there, around about -80, not -100. If I go to -100, I would have to go through and just put a little correction at each of the lights. So for the sake of the length of this video, I'm not going to do that today because we've shot here. These effectively are very, very bright. They've not gone out of range, but they are very, very bright. So what next should we do? Well, I think the next thing we can do is look at our whites and our blacks. Now, you can just hold down the shift key and double click the word white, and then holding down the shift key, double click the word black, and it will automatically make the clipping decisions for you. Personally, I prefer to see where it takes us on each of the sliders. So I hold down the Option or Alt key, and then what I'll do is I will just move it left or right. And you can see the little white dots appear. They're the lanterns that we've got. And you can also see when we do that, that this this triangle lights up, which is the clipping within the histogram. And if I click on that to make it illuminated square, you can see a red patches turn up where we're effectively clipping. So if I bring the white slider back down slowly, you can see that that triangle's gone to blue and now to grey, but we still do have a little bit of clipping there. So we can back that back just a little bit further, and we can keep going until the red disappears. There we go. So plus 42. There's a little bit there. That one's, maybe we can just go back another couple of points and we can get to the limits of that. So if I hold down the Option or Alt key again and go back into that white, you can see there are still some white areas that are illuminated. So okay, let's just come out of the transform function for now. I'm just going to turn off the lines, so you don't need to see those because we've done that work, and that's what this little button up here turns the lines on and off. Okay, so we've now done our blacks and our whites. Okay, we've now got ourselves a pretty good balance. I actually want to brighten the scene slightly, so I'm going to come up on the exposure by about half a stop. So 0.5 will be enough to get to where we want to be. You can see that we're clipping again. Because we've raised the brightness, we've effectively shifted the whole histogram to the right. So we can deal with that again by just going to the white slider and bringing them back until the red dots disappear in the brightest areas. So we're not clipping again. That triangle's not illuminated. So I can turn that off for now. Let's look at the blacks. I'm going to click on the black here to see if we're clicking anywhere. And then, now there is a little bit over there in the distance on the buildings, but it's not particularly obvious. So again, I'll hold down the Option or Alt key on the black, and I can see there's just a few areas. So if I move down a little bit more, you can see I can introduce more black, more effectively, more deep contrast. But I'm going to bring that up so we're not clipping. So I'm just going to go up until the triangle goes off. There we go. The triangle's off at plus 21. So now we have a good balance. Everything's inside the histogram. Oh, and just for information, you may already know, but if you hover over the histogram and move around, you'll see that different parts of the histogram light up. And when it lights up, you'll see down in the box below here, you'll see which part is lighting up. So if I hover on that one, the white's lit up. If I hover on the one at the bottom, the black's lit up. Go to the middle, the exposure lights up. You can see. So as I work my way through, the different areas light up. So that shows you predominantly where the effect is taking place. So we've got the contrast right. I think next thing to do is consider the crop of this image. So we're going to go to the crop tool here. I don't want these people in this railing in at the bottom, so I'm just going to go just slightly above that. I'm happy with the ratio here and happy with the way it looks. I don't want to cut in onto this light up in the top here. So I'm just going to go into the custom aspect area here. Make sure it's unlocked, and then click on the custom, and then you can pick a standard ratio. So I'm going to go with 16:10, which is pretty close. I'm just going to move the image over. There we go. 16:10 works quite well. And the reason why you go with standard aspects is if you do need to print or you do need to send it away to make a canvas or something, sticking with standard ratios is actually a very good way to make sure that the image will fit into their sort of standard formats that they may have. So I'm going to hit return and accept that crop. So I'm very happy with that. Now, one of the reasons I took this image to show you is I didn't want to end up having to do a huge long video and do, you know, a huge amount of work to correct things, or do one of my day to night. So just wanted to show you how you can take a standard photograph in RAW and then you can process it into a really quite exciting image without having to do too much. However, if you look at the sky, it's grey blue. It's not a lot going on. Maybe we need to do a sky replacement up here to bring this alive. Well, it's quite a difficult one to do because we've got the light around the lights. We've got this sort of flare that we're going to have to look at, but we're going to go for it. So we're going to right click on the image. I'm going to go to edit in. So I'm going to go to edit in, and rather than doing my normal Adobe Photoshop, I'm actually going to go down and use Luminar Neo. So I've been working a little bit more with Luminar Neo more recently, and as I said in the introduction, I've actually come into affiliation with them. They've been very helpful in helping me develop my skills using Luminar, and they've even been very, very generous to give me the opportunity to give you a discount should you want to purchase it. And if you look down below, you'll see the affiliate link to get your 10% discount if you want to go down that route. But anyway, I'm going to take you in to Luminar Neo, edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. Yes, I want to do that, so I'm going to say edit. So I haven't opened the program previously, so it's now going to open Luminar Neo as a plugin. There we go, we're in Luminar Neo. So it can be quite daunting when you come into new pieces of software. You think, well, where do I go and what do I do? You have this presets function, which is where you always start off. So over on the right hand side, you can apply their predetermined presets, and some of them actually are quite good. Big City Lights is quite a nice one. If you go into there, you can pick from any of these to get different effects. You will have to do additional correction afterwards, so you can just sort of say, well, I want to go with this one, and then if you click on it, it will render it. So if I click on that, I can take the effect back slightly. So City Thrills is quite a good one, and then give it a moment, it will render it into the scene, and you get quite a nice effect. So if you do like to have quite easy one-step approaches, then Luminar Neo can be very, very helpful for you to do that. I'll give you another example. We'll go to Electric City here with this huge amount of magenta in the shot, but we'll back that back, say to about 28%. Let it render, and there you go. You've got that sort of magenta look as well. So but I'm not a big one for using these. What I prefer to do is go into edit at the top here, so I can take my original image, and then I get lots of sliders to help me do different things. And the one thing I want to do here is we want to have a look at changing the sky at the end of the day. So I'm going to go to the sky section here, and then you've got adjustments and maskings here. Now they do provide a number of images for you, and you can also select your own. So what I'm going to say is we're going to go into sky selection. I'm going to click on that, and they do have quite a number of sort of inbuilt sky. So let's pick this sunset down here, sunset clouds number 2. Okay, so I've just clicked on that, and it's applied it for us into that shot. Right, and it's actually done quite a good job. It's sort of matched it in around. There's a little bit of over covering the buildings in some places, but that's not too bad. So just going to click to the right of that, so we've accepted that, and then we can go through some of the refinement tools here to just make sure that we've got it looking good. So you've got sky orientation, so you can move the sky up or down. You can move it further away, closer in, so depending on where we are. So I could go for something like that. And you can also change the vertical position and the top one was horizon position, and also you've got horizontal and vertical. You can also flip left to right by clicking this little tick box here. So get it where you like it, so you're happy with it. Now I'm going to go down to mask refinement. Now you get 3 sliders here. You get global, close the gaps, and fix the details, right? So global, let me just show you. If I go all the way to the right, you can see that global means it's trying much harder to bring the sky into the image, and you can see it's really pulling over the top of these buildings. So if you go all the way to the right, you can see the effect. If you go all the way to the left, you can see the opposite effect. Okay, so what we're looking at is to make sure that the sky is not bleeding into any of the buildings or causing any issues. You will note that these lights are affected, the glare, because they've basically been masked into the shot. So I'm going to just push this to the right until I can see that we're starting to see a bit of bleed, which we are now starting to see a little bit of bleed there. You can see it here and here. So I'm just going to back that off again and make sure that we've not got that coming into the shot. There we go. Then you've got closed gaps. So where the sky is having to fill in to little areas, you can, again, if I go all the way to the right, you can see that it opens up these lights much more. Okay, and you can see that the edging is still pretty good. I could probably even go all the way to the right and just see how that looks. And we get the glare back. You see that? So where we were far over to the left, we've got this really tight clip on these lights. Doesn't look natural. And some of the difference between the buildings and the skies don't look natural. Moving that over to the right can open that up a great deal, make it look much more natural. So I'm actually going to go pretty far. Actually, I'm going to go over to about 36 there. I'm quite happy with that. And then the last bit is the detail, fix the detail. So do the same thing, click far to the right, see what effect it has, look to see what the break between the sky and the buildings is, and then move it to the far left and see the effect that it has, and to see where we are. And this one is really fine because it's fixed the detail. You look at the lights, the flare of the lights, and you go from left to right, and you'll see that that flare edge is no longer just a cut edge. It's actually quite open. You can see that there, that's all quite open. So I'm actually going to go quite far over to the right with that. You've got scenery lighting, and this is all to do with taking the color of the sky and applying it to the foreground. But we already have these quite warm colors in the foreground. So I can click to the right, and that will bring that reds from the sky into the foreground shot. And if I go to the left, you can see that there's less of it. So let's add a little bit of that, around about 40, just to give that balance of color. Then you've got the saturation level. So it's the same thing, the color we put in here. But again, if we go to the far right, you can saturate the scene with the color of the sky. And we're going to not do too much of that. And then there's a relight human function, which is to do with people. If you have people in the shot and there's a sky behind them, you can actually take the complexion of the individual face and the portrait itself and actually appropriate the light. So it's not relevant here. You've also got reflections. So you can consider, well, could I, having water here, could I try to get a reflection of the sky down here? So you could move that to the right and get more of that sky coming into the water. You could blur the water using the blur sliders more to give you that effect. I find that this does work quite well, particularly where the water's already relatively smooth. But you'll see with the reflections, if I bring that back, look at this area here, you'll see that I go to the right, you'll see there's ever so slightly more light coming in from over there. So I'm going to go with a bit of reflection. I quite like that. I'm happy with the sky and the color of the sky. And then the last one, sky adjustments. Well, this deals with the sky itself. Now, at the moment, I fear that the sky is a little bit subdued. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just give it a little bit more crispness and make it work a little bit more. So I'm going to raise the brightness slightly. Now, you notice that the foreground also raised, and that's because we've got the reflection amount up quite high. So I'm going to reduce that reflection. Sorry, not the reflection, the relight strength. I'm going to back that off just a little bit, and then we can bring the brightness of the sky up without having too much of an effect in the foreground. That works quite well. And also we can add more warmth to the sky if we want to. But to be honest, it's pretty warm. If I go more, it will get a bit too much. We can take it right the way to the right just to see where it takes us. And we can go all the way to the left, see where it takes us. Now, the left works quite well because we get this blue coming in. I really do like that. So maybe we'll go somewhere in the middle and get the blue and the... I think that works quite well just there. Happy with that. Right, so that's the sky. We're going to do some more corrections in Lightroom when we go back just to pick this up. Now, I will say that the skies that come with Neo are very useful in terms of trying and experimenting, particularly with lower resolution images. However, when you've got high resolution images like this, these images are actually relatively low in their resolution compared, so they will always won't look perfect. I do have, if you go onto my website, I do have a skies pack section of my website. At the moment, I've only got night skies. I did a lot of work to get some really high quality night skies sorted, and they are available there. You can buy them in JPEG or DNG at a very reasonable price. And those images have come from all over the world, from Africa, America, and the UK, to get the perfect night skies. And I am very close to releasing a sunset pack, which I will be releasing. Again, DNG files, very high resolution images, and also JPEG alternatives, again at high resolution, so you will be able to use them in images like this where we're up at 60 megapixels. So that's our sky, our sky replacement. Happy with that. I can do a before and after by clicking on this little eye. So if I click on the eye, that's the before, that's the after. Completely transforms the image. Something that was okay to something that's like, oh wow, So that's really, really good. You have an enhance function above here, and you can use that to deal with the contrast and the like. And the sky enhancer is actually quite clever. If I just put a little bit of accent into this shot, just a little bit, and then we can just see where we go with this. Don't want too much. I think we're going to go with about 15. And I think because we've used the sky replacement, it won't allow us to use the sky enhancer. If you've got an existing sky in the shot, that sky enhancer will be allowed. But because we did a sky replacement, it effectively is already in there. Now, if I go down and we'll look at some of the other functions we've got in here, there's a couple of really cool ones. One of them is relight. That works very, very well. You can change the way the light works. Here we've already got a lot of light contrast. We don't need to do it. So another option I like to use is neon and glow. This is really good, and also mystical to try to affect this overall scene. If I go to mystical glow, and we can it's started to apply it there, and if we increase the amount, you can get a really quite deep sort of luster to the color. That's also quite a nice slider to have in here, and you can increase more in the atmosphere up here, more of a glow if you like in the clouds. You can also change the hue as well to the whole scene by moving the hue slider. Very, very powerful. And the whiteness slider, you can see, also affects the glow as we go through. I don't want too much whiteness in there. That creates quite a nice effect. Really, really good. And as I say, mystical, the one below it, this really is quite fantastic. If I give it a whole handful of this, you end up with a really quite incredible effect. I don't want that much effect of just showing you, but if we bring that back and just apply just a little bit and have it more in the shadows with plenty of smoothness, you get quite a nice effect from the mystical. It's very, very nice. So overall, I think we've done, there's lots and lots of functions in here, and as we go forward, I'll take you through some of the different functions that are available to us in here. Structure is also quite a good one. You can affect the structure here by adding more. It's a bit like a sort of clarity stroke contrast effect. It will really sort of bring things up. But for now, I'm just going to leave that. We're going to take this back into Lightroom, so I'm going to apply that. So there we are. We're back into Lightroom. We've got the new scene with the sky in it. Now let's just do some final corrections here. I think we're rather saturated having come out of Luminar, so I'm just going to back the saturation off just a little bit, and I'm just going to bring the color down using the temp slider just ever so slightly, not too much, just going to come down just to take a little bit more of that orange away. But I am going to increase the vibrance, and vibrance is color contrast effectively. You can really make a scene pop by adding that in. Now the sky, as I said, it's quite low resolution, so we'll need to do just a little bit of work to make that pop. So I'm just going to go into masks. I'm going to select sky, so it will select the sky for us. And what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to increase the highlight slightly, just so it's a bit brighter. You can see there, if I go back to 0, you can see it just brightens these areas up. Just bring the highlights up. And I'm also going to go down to clarity, and I'm going to give the sky a whole pop of clarity. Okay, so just give that about 20 on the clarity. And I want to back off the contrast ever so slightly, just so it sort of mixes in a little bit with that sort of, skies tend to be a little bit hazy. So I'm just backing the contrast off ever so slightly there. Now I just want to make these cloud edges pop just a little bit more. So I'm going to create another mask. I'm going to go to brush. I'm going to make sure the auto mask is ticked, and the auto mask allows us to pick an area and use that as the basis. So for example, if I just zoom in here slightly on the sky, you can see it's slightly lower resolution than the sky. So I would urge you to use a higher resolution sky, but I just wanted to show you what was available inside Luminar Neo. But if I now, having selected mask, I'll make sure my feather's at 100% and the flow is about 50%. So we're not putting too much down. I'm going to increase the exposure by maybe 3/4 of a stop, 0.75. And then I'm going to take a brush, not too big. I'm going to start on the light area. You see where the cross is on the light area. And I'm just going to ease that into the scene there. So I'm just painting that in. And what we're doing is just giving a little bit of subtle increase in brightness to those cloud edges. And the reason why we use auto mask is so that we don't lighten up the dark areas. We only lighten up the areas that we've picked as our starting point. So I'm just going through and just lightening up those edges there. So same here, look, I'm just going to come in there, just lighten that up, just pick those up. We can brighten this whole area up here as well by just hovering over that, just give that extra bit of brightness over there. And maybe this yellow in here needs to be a little bit brighter as well. So we're just going to give that a couple of pops. There we go. Now, of course, we've got that. If I hover over the mask there, you can see where we've actually done that work. So what we can do is, now we've got the sliders available to us, we can actually, you know, change that. We can increase the highlights in those areas. We can increase the exposure in those areas a little bit more if we want to. We can increase the whiteness of those areas just to make them pop that little bit more. I'm not going to go too mad. Just want to bring that in a little bit, but I am going to add some more clarity to those bright edges. There we go, just to add that in, and that sky looks pretty good, I have to say. So let's just zoom back out to fit. So my images that I do here on YouTube are very much from a demonstration perspective. They're never done to be sold or to be you know, published or printed somewhere else. These are just so I can show you how some of the techniques I use work. If I was going to produce this image for you know, printing or for much higher, then I would use a much higher resolution sky, and I would take a little bit more time to fine tune the edges of the sky in the image. So just bear that in mind. This is very much done from a demonstration perspective. So for now, I think I'm probably going to be quite happy with this. I'm just going to come out of masks, do some final adjustments here. I think I'm just going to bring the highlights down slightly just to get the balance in. I'm going to brighten the whole image up slightly, not too much, probably about 0.25. Bring those highlights down just a little bit more. I don't think I really need to bring the shadows up too much. No, I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with the sky at the top here. It's all looking very nice. Maybe just a little bit of clarity to the scene, not too much. And yeah, I'm going to say I'm happy with this. I'm going to say we are done. So hopefully that helped you with some of the basics that we tend to go through in terms of trying to get an image correctly exposed, and also quick sky replacement using Luminar Neo, which is a great piece of software for putting the skies in. And of course, it does give you some skies to play with to start off with. But if you do have some better quality skies, it will make all the difference when you come to show the image. So I was going to say, for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click like down below. I always enjoy your comments and questions and any tips that you might have for me. I always enjoy looking at those, and I do try to answer all of them. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, it'd be great for you to join me on this adventure I'm having on YouTube. And yeah, until the next video, bye-bye for now.